My name is Instructor, Impostor Syndrome. This is a 3-part series featured specially here at Yoga Barn Online. We're going to look at the causes, definitions, and symptoms of imposter syndrome, as well as the different types and what we can do about silencing it. Let's get started. This is the first part of silencing imposter syndrome, where we look at really the nature of it, the background of it, what causes it, and what are the symptoms so that we can identify when it's happening to us and do something to come out of it. What makes imposter syndrome so unique is that the proof is actually in front of us. The reasons why we have achieved certain things, the reasons why we pursued certain outcomes, the degrees we got, the hard work we did, everything is in place and the result is now visible, except we don't feel like we deserve it. We don't feel like we're good enough. We're unable to receive it. That which we've been working for all this time is right there in front of us, yet we refuse to acknowledge it and internalize it, receive it, celebrate ourselves. So that's what makes imposter syndrome so unique from other fears, is that the other fears are about imagined events in the future typically, or even reliving things from the past. But imposter syndrome, the result, the proof is right in front of us, yet we have a difficult time accepting it. The source of imposter syndrome is usually just like a lot of things, somewhere in our formative years, somewhere in our upbringing. We weren't nurtured the way we needed to be nurtured. We weren't loved the way we needed to be loved. We weren't held in that moment that we needed to feel held. And it happens to everyone. We could have been at a supermarket, and right when you needed a hug from your parent, she turned to the other aisle to get something, and boom, you feel abandoned. And now there's a self-worth issue that we take into adulthood. It happens to all of us. It's just a question of learning to notice it, developing the tools to come out of it, and then taking action. So, as always, you're not a problem. Imposter syndrome is not something that needs to be fixed ultimately. It's just something that needs to be recognized and then applied certain tools to. A part of imposter syndrome is also the issue that we keep thinking that we're a fraud, that we think we're looking around and somebody is going to find us out at any moment. So this is what creates this anxiety, this anxiousness, this dread that we're, feel the night before we go to work the next day. Like, we've gotten the promotion, we have the job title now, we have the success that we were looking for, but now we feel like a fraud, that somebody's going to find out that we really don't deserve it. And that sense of not deserving it is really just within ourselves. Everything we experience is our relationship with ourselves. We're always exuding not what the world thinks of us, but what we think the world thinks of us, and ultimately what we think of ourselves. So imposter syndrome, just like all other fears and anxieties, is just about your relationship between yourself and your thoughts about yourself. And can you do something about observing those thoughts? Can you apply a witness state? Can you be more aware of those thoughts? Then it relieves the pressure from these negative thoughts, these belittling thoughts, that these beliefs that could really change the trajectory of your life. You could be an amazing manager at work and inspire your team and others, yet this dread of feeling like you're a fraud is keeping you limited, keeping you stuck, and you could be of service to the world and to others, yet this one issue between you and yourself is keeping you small. Looking at the next slide, symptoms of imposter syndrome. Now, there's many different symptoms that apply to many different things, but the important thing to notice is to notice, right? Is to realize something's happening. It's not that I'm a problem. There's nothing wrong with me. It's just that I have to have tools to be able to respond to something that doesn't feel in alignment. This is what mindfulness is all about. This is why we meditate. This is why we develop greater self-awareness, is so that we can see our thoughts, observe our feelings. We can be present with what's happening and not always in our heads about it, comparing what we think should be happening to the actual reality in front of us. This is where the rub is. This is where imposter syndrome comes in, because we have this lack, this sense of scarcity about ourselves. We don't feel whole. We don't feel complete. And like I said, everyone has some degree of it. Just the fact that we've come from spirit and we find ourselves in our bodies now, there's an inherent limitation to that. And We just need to accept that as a condition of this dimension of our life and learn to come out of that, because that's what it's doing. It's showing us a way out of the identification with thoughts. Everything we feel triggered by, everything that seemingly holds us back, is pointing to some limiting belief about ourselves. And that will keep happening. Situations will keep cropping up that point that out to us. Ultimately, life is a mirror. It's always happening for us to point out what something inside of us needs healing. So same thing again with imposter syndrome. You're feeling dread. You're feeling unworthy. That's not a permanent state. That's not just you. You weren't born with that, and that's you forever. It's something that is incomplete, a wound, a sense of abandonment, a feeling of not being good enough. We didn't get the praise, or we've inherited this stuff from our lineage. Maybe this is a pattern of denying ourselves wins, of denying ourselves receiving praise that we've just inherited from our environment, our parents, our lineage. This is most of the stuff that we struggle with is actually, we're healing not just ourselves, we're healing our entire ancestral line. And so the buck stops with you. You are the black sheep, so to speak, that has decided to make a change and say, stop, I'm no longer going to blindly repeat these patterns. Imposter syndrome is one of those key things because it speaks to your self-worth. It's not technically defined in the DSM. It's not considered a medical condition, at least not yet, but it can change the trajectory of your life. Like I gave in the example of the career path that you're feeling held back because you're not able to receive. In relationships, the type of people you attract, the way you deal with money, or the way you deal with your progress in life. And you have the brakes on at all times when you're not able to feel worthy. And you've even worked for these things. You've created goals to achieve and pursue those things and invested a lot of your time and energy. And now you're at the doorstep. They're on the winner podium. The trophy is yours, and you just don't want to receive it because you don't feel worthy. So this can really impact the quality of your life, your ability to receive without going overboard into the other direction either, right? We don't want that. But in terms of limiting beliefs, imposter syndrome is one of those core limiting beliefs, and it's just a belief. It's just a thought form. If we believe it, it's real. The body responds accordingly as if it's an actual fact. Even though the proof is in front of us, the belief overrides all of that. So if you attach yourself to the belief that I'm not good enough, I don't deserve this, then it's as real as anything that's physically in front of you. So it doesn't mean to be belittled when I say that it's just a thought, but that points to the fact that you can let go of it. You do not need to identify with that thought. And the way that we let go of these things is, as always, by coming out of our head into our body, out of our mind into the wisdom of our sensations. And we'll talk more about that today. Anxiety is one of those things. It's not a problem unless you think of it as a problem. If you think of it as an indicator, a pointer, okay, I'm feeling anxious. Where am I feeling anxious? What could it be about? What's different in my environment? Has there been any changes in my lifestyle or people that I surround myself with? The people we surround ourselves with is so instrumental. You can have no interest in self-development, no interest in spirituality or going deeper within. The people around you have the greatest say in determining the outcome of your life and whatever you deem to be success. So that is a key element always to look at. What type of people do you surround yourself with? What is their vibration? How do they spend their time? Because you're very likely to go with them and spend your time in the same way. So always a good tip for all situations, surround yourself with the people that are equal or elevating. Depression is also one of these things. Depression is not something that is you. None of these things are you. They're symptoms, and if you notice them, then you can observe them. You can keep yourself separate from them because you are not those symptoms. You are not your thoughts. You are not your feelings. If you can be aware of your thoughts, you're not your thought, right? You can do that right now. Oh, there's a thought. And if a feeling, a sensation shows up in your body, that's a feeling. So clearly you're not your thoughts. You're not your feeling. You're the witnessing presence, the essence, the awareness of the thoughts and feelings. That's who you really are. And we can do that in this little example just now of, yeah, there's a thought. Oh, yeah, there's a feeling. And it's just a question of having the routines and practices in place so that you can do this more consistently. That way you never identify, you never get pulled into the thoughts as deeply and as like a glue, so that you spend 2/3 of your day lost in thought until you really come out of it eventually. It's a lot of time, a lot of energy spent on not really being here when we keep attaching ourselves to every single thought. Every single thought comes along, and if we glue ourselves to it, if we believe it, if we make it real, then our life is a roller coaster, because you're attached to every single thought, up and down. Then the next thought comes, up and down. And that way we are so in the micro of each thought that it takes us with it, right? But if we can be in our awareness of our thoughts, then you're the container through which life flows. And okay, here comes a thought. There it is. Then you can choose. Then you have the freedom to attach yourself to believe, to give your attention to that thought, because you've decided it's something beneficial, it's something uplifting, it's something inspiring. And that's not a mental decision. That's a feeling. Something resonates. And when it resonates, that's your truth, that's your wisdom, that's your unique blueprint that's speaking. And it's really a miraculous, beautiful thing to think that out of billions of creatures over time, that every single one of us has their unique blueprint. The person standing next to you has something else resonates for them. But what resonates for you, that is your truth. And that's a feeling in your body. That's not a mental decision. And so when we try to navigate from the mind again, that's how we get lost. That's how we get confused. That's how we get anxious. That's how we get pulled into feeling the world is against us. There's time, past and future. And we get pulled into the monkey mind that always jumps around, and we lose our connection to our higher self, our gut, our intuition. That's what that really is. Our inner voice is there to guide us. It's a built-in GPS. It's beautiful. It's simple. It tells you something feels right, something doesn't feel right. And we've only been conditioned to think of that as not reliable, when it's the only thing that's reliable. It's the only thing that's true for you. No one else can know you. No one is you. Even your parents don't know you really. You can only know yourself based on what resonates. So keeping that in mind, even when you're depressed, you don't think I'm depressed. You think there is depressed energy moving through me. I can feel depressed energy working its way, or present here, or whatever the experience of it is. But you're not identifying when you're saying that. You know your awareness of the depressed energy. As long as you can stay in the awareness, the energy cannot really harm you. It can't get to you. It can't pull you down so deeply that you lose yourself in it. If you do lose yourself in it, then you have to kind of ride it out as best as you can. Do what it takes to come out of that. But establishing to prevent yourself from getting pulled into the darkness of some of those thoughts and feelings is to establish a stronger awareness, a mindfulness muscle. And we're going to talk more about that today, and also do something about it. We've talked about the dread, right? Fearing life. Whenever you're in fear, that's a sign that you're in your head. The fear really only exists in the head. In modern life, there's very few things that are actually dangerous. There's no tiger lurking around every corner. The dangers that our mind used to protect us from in previous eras don't longer exist, fortunately, and that's a good thing. But the mind is still kind of prehistoric in that way, and is looking for problems, looking for fear, looking for danger. So unless there's imminent danger in front of you, which is rare, and then your fight and flight response takes over anyway, so you're not really thinking and analyzing even there, then you're not ever really in fear. And the only fear that you experience is in your mind when you're drifting into the future, expectations, what might happen, what should happen, what could happen. Also in the past, when you're reliving situations and amplifying what has already happened and kind of pulling that experience into the present. This is how things get complicated. And this is when you bring that into right now is what creates all that complication, all that fear and anxiety and dread. All these feelings are symptoms. They're indicators that you're in your mind. They don't need to be addressed per se with more thought. They don't need to be analyzed or figured out per se. It's more of a indicator, recognizing, noticing I'm in my head, because fear only exists there. And looking for, where do you feel that fear in your body, the sensation representation of that. That then is your bridge back into the body, so that you don't spin around the fear that is just the mind creates, because it's endless up there. Look for the fear sensation in your body. Let that pull you out of the head back into your inner wisdom, into your physical self. And then you've broken this connection. You've come out of your head altogether. All right. Self-doubt is another one of these. Imposter syndrome is so deeply linked to, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy. And so, again, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing that needs to be fixed. It's just noticing what you're tuned to, meaning which thoughts have you been giving your attention to, because that's all our reality consists of. The sum total of what you give your attention to. You become whatever thought you give your attention to. So with greater awareness, again, you can choose which thought to give your attention to. And then knowing very well that that's what you take in, that's what you take on. So if somebody asks you, how's life going? How are things? You always reflect basically on kind of right now, maybe today, or at most last few days. It's the total of what have you been giving your attention to recently. That's what makes up the quality of your life. That's your life experience. It's not the achievements. It's not the things in the past. It's how are you feeling right now? What have you been giving your attention to? So learning to be very vigilant with awareness, noticing our thoughts, observing our sensations as they arise, letting them pass, because that's what we're not really used to. We have a thought that comes along, we glom onto it, we believe it, we make it real, we get pulled into the depths of that thought, and down the rabbit hole we go. And then 10, 20 minutes later, fear-laden, full of anxiety, we may snap out of it, but we've already charged ourselves up with a lot of negativity. And that is then likely to lead to another thought. We glom onto that, down the rabbit hole we go. So that's how that works. And the way we break that is with greater awareness. All right. Apprehension is also one of these things. The mind is deathly afraid of the unknown. It always projects, in many cases, the worst case scenario, but again, it's meant to protect us, but it's not really helpful in modern life. It thinks of what could happen if this happens and that happens. And again, it wants to keep you safe, but it's not helpful in modern life when we want to create things. We want to make decisions with confidence. We want to feel in alignment with who we are and ourselves and be able to pursue that path and create the best life that we know for ourselves to create. And hesitation, sitting on the sofa, feeling overwhelmed, like this is not going to work because X, Y, and Z. We talk ourselves out of it. And because we don't think we're capable of it, we don't think we're worthy of it. And all that is just painting too big of a picture with all of these projections that the mind likes to throw on this endless canvas that exists up there in the head. And of course, you're going to find ways to talk yourself out of it. Of course, you're going to feel overwhelmed if you're trying to predict the future, if you're trying to project your entire life and how it can all go. And there's some value, of course, in visualizing the path you do want it to go, but even there, you cannot get attached, because otherwise you're going to compare that to what's happening. And now, again, you're in this comparison mode where you're not really present with things as they happen, responding to what's there, but you're bringing in your expectations and then comparing, constant comparison. That's what leads to overthinking. It leads to reactivity. It leads to just being in our heads. And specifically, one of the strongest thoughts is that I'm not good enough. And that then directly ties back to all of our childhoods. At some point, we got that sensation, that feeling that we're not worthy, and it just perpetuates. We talked about the last point here, overwhelm. A great idea for whenever you feel overwhelmed is first to notice it, right? What we tend to do is we shut ourselves down. We think that, this is it. I shouldn't even start this. And we basically talk ourselves out of it. But ultimately, as soon as you notice a sense of overwhelm, again, it's a symptom. So what can you do to come out of overwhelm? Well, usually overwhelm is too big of a picture the mind creates. So scale it back. break it down into something that doesn't feel overwhelming, that doesn't feel like it's too much. So these are simple reframe tricks, if you want to call it that, that with awareness, you can see the ramifications of a loose mind that it's all over the place. And then you can put framing on that and constraints on that so that you can actually work with life, collaborate with it, work with what you've been given in your mind and your body and your spirit and your emotions, and actually give a beautiful framing to that so that you can move forward and achieve the things you want to achieve with joy, not just focused on outcome, but actually focused on the process of the day, the moment as it is, as it's unfolding, to see the miracle in that, see the aliveness in that. You're connecting to a completely different plane and a completely different spectrum than if you're focused on the other end of the spectrum where it's, I'm not good enough, this is overwhelming, it's too much, I'll never succeed, what will others think of me? All of that stuff. It's just a spectrum. You can tune into anywhere along the way. It's all there all the time. Things don't magically appear when you start focusing on them. They've been there all along. It's just now you're setting your attention a certain way to a certain frequency. And then that's what you experience. So that's also how manifestation works. Right? So what are you tuned to? That is ultimately the underlying principle. And with imposter syndrome, you just keep tuning to, I'm not good enough and I don't deserve. Then that's what you're going to experience and will really hamper your life progress. So with that, we've understood the causes, the symptoms, how to notice what comes up in terms of our experience of imposter syndrome. And we'll conclude part 1 with this. In part 2, we're going to look at how we can really examine the different types as they show up in our life in different areas. And then from there, we're going to look at solutions in part 3. See you soon.